And we welcome you back to Jackson 24/7. Now, let's take a look at sports. Now, you've already seen from the weather report that the cold fronts are moving in a little quicker than expected, and therefore, some high school football games from around the area have been pushed to tonight. So I'm standing by with Logan Whaley. Logan, we've got some great games happening in the last week of regular season play in West Tennessee. Let's start out with one of the games being moved to tonight, a huge game with an opportunity for the Lexington Tigers to clinch the #1 spot in Region 6-4A as they take on Chester County. Kind of break down that matchup for us right now.
Well, it's a huge matchup for Lexington, Alex. As you mentioned, the #1 spot on the line, and as always, just looking to gain some momentum for the playoffs anyway.
Right.
So I think that'll be a huge game for Lexington to really just kind of gel together as a team before playoffs.
But don't count out Chester County, ladies and gentlemen. Again, they've had some highs and lows throughout the season, but a team hosting in their last game could give Lexington a run for their money. But again, Lexington, a very good opportunity, just like you said, to clinch tonight. Also happening tonight, Lake County at TCA. Now, we covered a game with Trinity Christian last week against a very talented Trenton Peabody team. What do we see from TCA, and how do they bounce back still without no Victor Horton?
Yeah, well, last week was very difficult defensively, offensively. Offense was really struggling without Victor Horton. Only scored 21 points, gave up 61 to Peabody, which I think the biggest question mark this season about TCA has been their defense.
Right.
And really, if they can bounce back against a very talented Lake County team, I think it'll say a lot about this Lions football team heading into the playoffs. So without Victor Horton, they still need to find some answers offensively, but I think that this will be a very, very good game.
And that region really is just a mess, honestly.
Yes.
We've looked at breaking that down. It's very, very difficult because it all depends on how other teams do throughout the region. Last week, Union City had a scare against McKenzie, but somehow came away with the win and could have jumbled some things up. But speaking of jumbling things up in that Region 7AA, Adamsville and Peabody playing again. Peabody still having to win in order to get into the playoffs. How do you think they come out against a very talented Adamsville team who's playing a lot better, have dealt with some injuries at the beginning of the season, they've returned their players, but now they're playing at home against a must-win game? Yeah,
and I think last week Peabody played probably their most complete football really all season. Their offense really clicked, and the main story about Peabody has been their defense and how solid it's been all year. But when their offense throws up 61 against TCA, and it felt like their running attack was just unstoppable. I believe that Peabody could make some noise in the playoffs. I know their district or their region record hasn't been the best, but I think right now is when you want to play your best football, and I think Peabody has a very solid chance of knocking off Adamsville tonight.
And they're peaking. They're very peaking.
Oh, they are.
And
yes.
So moving along again to another important game. You got to love those rivalry games, ladies and gentlemen. Milan at South Gibson tomorrow night. Just a game in which you got South Gibson has moved up into that third spot in the Dirty Dozen. Milan playing some good football as well. That one's going to be a toss-up, as well as the game we'll be covering, Logan. South Side at North Side. Take a look at that one for us.
Yeah, the classic South Side, North Side rivalry. It's really been a back-and-forth rivalry when you look at it. I believe 6 of the last 11 games have been won by North Side, but the Indians are down this year. They really are. Not having a great season. They're young. Same could be said about Southside. Southside having a pretty good season, but they're also young and looking to improve. So I think rivalry games record goes out the window, obviously. And I think you look at that game, and I believe it'll be closer than a lot of people will make it out to be.
Yeah. And real quick, with just about a minute left to go, you were at Bulldog Madness here at Union a couple of nights ago, and so we'll be covering a lot of Union basketball games. First off, let's start with the girls. Just kind of give us a quick preview of what you saw and what's to be expected this season.
Well, it wasn't a full out effort. As it's not really designed to be a scrimmage where you're going to give 100%. But I really liked what I saw from Chelsea Schumpert, the University of Tennessee Chattanooga transfer, UTC, one of the top 30 programs in the nation, really. And Schumpert averaged 10 points per game pretty much every season she was there. She'll be a big boost for the Lady Bulldogs this season. I really liked what I saw from Tiara Caldwell and Bria Gaines. I think that front court has a lot of potential. Overall, this Lady Bulldogs team picked 4th in the Gulf South Conference preseason poll. I believe that really underrates them. I believe that this is a team that could not only compete for a Gulf South Conference championship, but also a national championship.
And real quick, just about 30 seconds, the guys.
Oh, super entertaining. Charlie Wilson was Charlie Wilson, super athletic, can jump out of the gym. Todd Barnes, he's another guy coming in this year that I think could also make an impact. Had a couple of slam dunks and just electrified the crowd. So a great performance overall.
Well, a lot to look forward to for the Union Bulldogs this season. And Logan, let's do sports again sometime. Let's make this a week.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Well, appreciate it, man. Well, let's see if you can stay warm and dry this weekend as you're watching those high school football games. We'll take a look at the weather with Rachel Pratt right after these messages.